Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are present, we ask everyone to come up to the canopy, and please be sure your phones have been turned off. And for those of you online, thank you for attending the service. We're just going to wait another few moments. At this time, Rabbi Sharon Morton will be officiating. For those of you who are here, we do ask you take a moment to be sure your cell phones have been turned off. For those of you who are online, I guess you don't have to worry about that. At this time, the rabbi is going to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya.
Before you all sit down, come up here. The word Kriya means tearing. And when, for Marcia particularly, there is a little tear in all of our... I said you should give me your speeches so I could read them. Forget that. There is a tear in all of our hearts because she died, but because people can't see that. And it's important that people do see that our hearts are torn. And I know when I wore that little black ribbon, I would go into stores, and if people were Jewish, they would automatically just say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. What happened?" And if they weren't, they would say, "Why are you wearing that little black ribbon?" And then I would explain to them. And then they were so kind and comforting all the time. So we tear that ribbon so people can see it. And this tradition started all the way back when Jacob thought that his son Joseph had died, and he tore his clothes. Today, Orthodox Jews still tear their clothes. We just tear the ribbon, and it still shows the same exact thing. Some people wear it only for the first week, but not on Shabbos, and other people wear it for the whole first month. That will be up to you. So we say together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, the judge of truth. And so take from the bottom, you should be able to just make a little tear.
I got one.
Okay, so everybody please be seated. And I guess, no, wherever. If it wasn't for this coronavirus, there would be a large crowd, and Marcia would be happy with a large crowd. Because it's the coronavirus, and there are so few people, only Marcia would say this particular reading. I don't want a curious crowd to come with lamentations loud when I'm dead. I don't want my words and ways rehearsed by them with tardy praise when life has fled. I only want the very few who stood through good and evil too, true friendship's test. Just those who sought to find the good, and then, as only true friends could, forgave the rest. But for Marcia, there is no rest. It was all good. I'd have them come, those very few, and drop perhaps just a tear or two, and then without a sob or moan, go softly out and leave alone my soul to rest. This next reading, I hardly ever read. It's called A Woman of Valor, and it's from the book of Proverbs, And it talks about someone who is so exemplary. And there are very few people in this world, I think, that are that exemplary. But for Marcia, she deserves it. A woman of valor who can find, her price is far above rubies. She does good and not evil all the days of her life. She works willingly with her hands. She rises and gladly gives food to her household. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yes, she stretches out her hand to the needy. She knits and crochets for her family. I think I added that. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness and laughter are on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you rise above them all. Grace is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. And there's one more reading that I want to share. It was written by Joseph Epstein. We don't choose to be born. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose our historical epoch or the country of our birth. We do not, most of us, choose to die or the time or the conditions of our death. But within this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how we live, honorably and dishonorably. And this is what gives definition to our lives. And Marcia gave such a strong definition to her life. I have a couple of paragraphs about what kind of a person she was when she was born and what she was known for, and her wit and her attitude and her joy in life, spending time with her children and grandchildren, and how loving and giving she was. But each of the kids will say something about that, and so will her sister. So we profoundly extend our condolences to Barbara and Abby, and to her dear children, Richard and the late Anne, Mindy and Anthony, Julie and Francis, and Lori and John. We also extend our condolences to her grandchildren, who were especially close to her, and whom she loved unconditionally, Sean and Kiera, Sarah and Carl, Katie, Brian and Casey and Samantha, Sam and Helen. Her life was enriched further by 3 great-grandchildren, Parker, Ainsley, and Ben, and she adored her nieces and nephews, Risa and Joe, Ethan and Stacy, and their children. And she was blessed with many friends and colleagues. And did I say your name, Jason? No. And Jason, for sure. He gets honorable mention. And together we read. You have it in your little booklets. You know, sometimes when I do a funeral, I don't use the Jewish readings as much because people don't know them so much. But Marcia so loved services. She so loved God. She so loved being in the temple that it is so appropriate to do this. So we say the 23rd Psalm together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And now Marcia's family have some words that they would like to share about our beloved Marcia. I'm going to read the first one, which is from her son Rick, who can't be here for health reasons, and but he did write something. And then after that, then we're going to hear from Barbara, and then from Mindy, and then Lori, and then Julie, and then a few words from me. And I want to tell you first a mindsa. A mindsa is a story, nobody knows if it's true, but it kind of travels around the world. And the mindsa is, the story is that when a person dies, they don't immediately go to heaven. They kind of linger around for about a week to see what's happening. They want to see how the family is doing. They're hoping that the family is doing well, that they are together, that there's kindness between all the members of the family. They want to hear what's said at the funeral. So whether or not that's true, I don't know. But I have to tell you, she would love all these words. So first of all, from Rick. Before I read what he wrote, I just want to tell you that he called his mother every Sunday, and they spoke about so many things every single Sunday. And that's a blessing to him, and it was a blessing to her, and it's a blessing to the life that she inspired for all of her children. And he wrote, "What could I possibly say about my mother that would do justice to her life? That she had a smile that could light up any room, no matter how big. That she had a huge heart that went out especially to those who were hurting or in need. Or that she was so beloved by friends and family that she needed not a day or a week, but an entire month to celebrate her birthday." And that's true. "What could I possibly say about my mother that would do justice to her impact on me as a person? That she taught me to be honest and fair in all my dealings, that she encouraged me to read and learn and think by rewarding me with praise and affection for my accomplishments in school, or that she taught me to be a Jewish man, not through formal Jewish education and training, but through my bearing and being in the world, especially my obligations to this world and to other people. What could I possibly say about my mother that would do justice to her as a parent and a grandparent? That I loved her, and I know she loved me. That she gave my wife and my children the same love and affection that she gave to me. Or that she was the only grandparent my children had a real relationship, but her love was great enough to count for 4 grandparents. What could I say about my mother that would do justice to her 90 plus years on this planet? I could say everything, and I could say nothing, and may she rest in peace." And now we call Barbara. I have it up here if you don't have it there.
My sister Marcia J. Grusin, the best sister anyone could have. At my age, it is hard to remember all the fabulous stories and events, but here goes anyway. Not in any particular order. This is story 1. She protected me and the rabbit that I found in our front yard. She put it in a crate and hid it from my mother. Story 2. She wouldn't pick up the dead bug in the closet as she was terrified of bugs, as we all know. Whoa, is that the truth or what? Okay, I get it. Story 3. She took me to Riverview with all of her friends, which she hated to do, but what? I'm telling you that there is somebody there.
Marcia would like this to
That's funny. I mean, really, if it couldn't happen to anybody else, it has to happen here. Okay. She took me to Riverview with all of her friends, which she really, really didn't want to do, but you know who said she had to. I loved going there with her, but I threw up on the tilt-a-wheel because she made me go on and on and on again. Number 4, so sad I was when she left home to get married. Story 5, we were called the girls from Royal. They invited us to come to New York to meet everyone, and we went. On Friday at Royal, she would say to me, anything happening this weekend? And I would say no. She said, well, how about you want to go to Vegas? And of course, being who I am, I said, let's go. Story 7. We went, she lost all her money, and flew home the next day. And that's the absolute truth. I could go on, but I will wind up with this. Even though we are 10 years apart, when I grew up, we became very close. I always looked at her for guidance, as she always said to me, and I quote, you will be next. I will miss her every day. But always remember all the great things we had experienced. I hope she is up there laughing. And I was up till 4:30 in the morning last night, and I just remember that we saw this movie on Christmas Eve. I was about 8. She was 18. And those days, we would put presents out by the fireplace on Kimball Avenue. Of course, I followed that routine for a long time. So she would take me to the movie. We saw The Thing and walked home, and I'm sure she carried me home because I'm sure I went to sleep, but I was 8 years old then, and go figure. I also said last night, what did I forget? Something I forgot. The best chopped liver that anybody ever made. And she will be missed like you can't even believe it. I miss her right now. Rest in peace.
I'm just going to say up front, I'm a really horrible public speaker, so I apologize. Before I say anything else, I just want to acknowledge, I'm crying already, I can't do this. Before I say anything else, I wanted to acknowledge the fact, God, I'm such a baby, that our mom prepaid for this entire funeral, including those gorgeous yellow roses, so that her children, in their grief, wouldn't have an extra burden. Thank you so much. That says volumes about what kind of person she was. I mean, who does that? Who prepays their funeral? It's a good idea, though. Anyway, our mom had some difficult years during her time on Earth. Anyone who knows her well knows this. Yet to meet her, you would never guess that were true. Unlike a lot of people, she didn't wear her heart on her sleeve. She was open and kind, and usually with a smile on her face. Never a pouter, always an optimist. I really admired her zest for learning and growing. She was extremely intelligent, and until the last decade of her life, she was incredibly sharp and inquisitive, always inquisitive. She also had a legendary sense of humor and wit, even to the end. Every time I called Lieberman's, aides and workers would tell me all the things my mom said that kept them laughing and loving her. I mean, so many stories, they thought she was a riot. She had a keen sense of right and wrong. I mean, more so than anyone I've ever met. She was a great listener, treated most with fairness, kindness, and always with an open mind. She was extremely honest, often to a fault. I mean, she told my cousin Marty once, maybe I shouldn't say that. Sorry, Marty. She was loyal to her friends and family, especially to those she held most dearly in her heart. Our mom wasn't a coddler. If you came home with a bad cut or scrape, she'd say, "Don't bleed on my carpet." But I always knew she cared about my well-being. And although she didn't tell me every day, and she wasn't really a hugger, I always knew she loved me. I was always very grateful. Oh, this is where I'm going to lose it. I was always very grateful for her consistency. As someone who had some difficult years as a child, her being a constant source, get it together, of reliability meant everything to me. It wasn't until I became a mother myself that I didn't need to rely on her so heavily. She was an amazing grandmother. These kids were lucky to have Ma in their lives. I know she loved my daughter so much as she lit up whenever she entered the room. I know she was a source of great joy for her. All her grandchildren and later great-grandchildren were. She was loved and admired by most who knew her, and she will be greatly missed. I was going to end here, but my Aunt Barbara called me the other day and asked if I would please tell this story. And as humor and story were a really big part of our mom's life, I think she'd approve of me telling this. So here goes. Our mom loved warm weather. She loved to lay out in the yard in the sun for hours at a time with her band de soleil slathered on her, listening to her radio play music with the plug stuck in the grass next to the chair. We didn't know it, but the radio was battery operated in addition to the plug. We asked her once, "Mom, why do you always stick that plug from the radio in the ground?" Oh, sorry, my nose is running. We asked her why she always sticks the plug from the radio into the ground. And she said, "Oh, that's how the radio gets electricity. There are electrical currents running in the ground, and they surge up through the plug into the radio, and that's what gives it its power." Made total sense to us, as growing up, her word was golden, and we believed everything she told us was true. Fast forward to our teenage years. My first car was a Camaro that I really loved a lot. It was my pride and joy. One day, my sister, who prefers to remain unnamed, but isn't Lori, banged up. Julie gave me that joke, and it got the biggest laugh. Banged up the door, and there was a chip in it. Obviously, I was pretty mad, and I told her her punishment was she needed to help me fix it. So we bought touch-up paint, and we borrowed a sander to smooth it out first. Problem was, the sander had a really short cord, and we didn't have an extension. So my unnamed sister, who isn't Lori, suggested we stick the plug in the ground like Mom used to do at the radio. Sounded logical to me. In our defense, this was way before Google and fact-checking even existed. So, a while later, our mom pulls up, saw us sticking this plug into the ground over and over, got out of her car and said, "What are you two doing?" We asked Mom, "Where's that spot in the ground where the electrical currents are so we could start up this sander?" And she said, "Oh my God, I just told you kids that so you would stop asking me questions," which is so typical of her. I plugged it into the grass so no one would trip on the cord. Anyway, she shook her head, started laughing, and walked away. I'll end by saying we might not have had a lot growing up, but we always had love and laughter, a lot of laughter. Honestly, till the very end. I love you, Mom. I just got to say this last line. I will think of you and miss you every day for the rest of my life.
I'm going to read Julie's story. It's probably not very wise to stand in front of all the people who greatly admired and loved your mom and point out the ways that you're not like her. But the truth is, my mom and I have always been very different. She loved bright colors and lively patterns. I liked things muted and understated. She was practical and logical. I was dreamy and flighty. She was stoic and kept most things to herself. I was whiny and possibly a little annoying. I was also oversensitive and a crybaby. And she was one of the strongest and most resilient people I know. But despite our differences, my mom was always there for me. She may have found it easier to hold Lori's hand or give her kisses, but her reliability and constant efforts always let me know that I mattered. Nor did our differences keep me from loving and admiring her, from cherishing the times we spent together, or from learning by her example. Ironically, I think one of the most important things I learned from my mom is how to see past differences and focus on what is truly important. For example, being there for one another, helping each other find humor in even the darkest situations. Next, being charitable to others, even when it feels like you have nothing to give. Being non-judgmental and tolerant of other people's choices. And being brave enough and selfless enough to do what's right, no matter how hurt or disappointed you may be by the way others have acted. I am so grateful that in the past 10 years, I've had a chance to act on those lessons and give back to my mom some of the love and care that she has given to me. I'm grateful for all the times I saw her face light up because she was happy to see me. I'm grateful for the countless laughs we had together, for our inside jokes and our heart-to-heart conversations. And I'm grateful for the times that it was me she kissed and my hand that she held onto. Over the last several years, I've learned that my mom and I actually do have things in common. One of those things is our optimism. I guess it's that optimism that makes me believe she can still feel the love that I have for her, that she can still hear me thank her for always being there for me, and that she can still feel me sitting next to her and holding her hand. From Lori. And now we hear from Mindy.
That was Julie. I'm Lori. We heard from Mindy Grusin.
Yes, that's what I meant. That was Mindy and that was Julie and you're Lori. I knew that.
Oh. My glasses keep fogging up. Well, as my mother would say, last but not least, when whoever was the last one to get their present would complain. So Julie and I, and I'm probably just going to read this just to make it easier on myself. Julie and I compared notes and realized our eulogies for our mom were opposite sides of the same coin. Julie's is about how our mom and she were always very different, and mine's about how similar we were. My mom and I were always really close. It was probably because we were so much alike. But maybe we were so much alike because I tried to be just like her. I loved spending time with her, and we never had a lack of things to talk about. But even when we sat in silence, it was nice. Through her actions, she taught me about tzedakah and the importance of giving. When we were younger, even though we didn't have many toys or clothes, she periodically made us give some to charity to help people who had even less than we did. She volunteered to teach English to adult immigrants and taught younger congregants at Am Shalom how to play mahjong. My mom was the one who got me started giving blood, and for years we donated together. During breaks in high school and college, I worked with my mom and Aunt Barbara at their paper products business. It was fun being a co-worker instead of a daughter, talking on the drive to and from the store, hanging out during breaks, when she'd give me one, and having lunch at the Greasy Spoon on the corner. Remember those breaded pork tenderloin sandwiches? My mom made me feel like I was special and deserving of good things. She supported my dreams of becoming a teacher and later of publishing children's books. She always made me feel like if I wanted to do it, I could. even as an adult with kids and grandkids of my own. It meant so much. Hold on, I'm plugging up. It meant so much to me when my mom told me she was proud of me. So I worked really hard. I'm washing this or throwing it out, and still do to think. What? Hold on. I can't read without my glasses. So I worked really hard and still do to do things that I know would make her proud. One of my mom's greatest gifts was her sense of humor. I don't think we were ever together for more than 5 minutes before we were laughing hysterically. My college friends and I have a weekly group phone call, and one of the first things they ask me is if I have any new Ma stories. Luckily, I've kept a list on my phone so I can refer back to them whenever I'm missing her. And I found 89 voicemails. I mean, I did answer the phone when she called, but somehow in 5 years there were 89 voicemails. Hi, it's me. My mom was the strongest woman I know. She raised 4 kids on her own, often working 2 jobs and sometimes 3. She faced so much adversity, yet she persevered with grit and humor. She worked until she was 82 and then amazed us all when at 87 she had 2 knee replacement surgeries 4 months apart. And with the second one, her femur was fractured and she spent 4 months in rehab. But she did it, and she worked so hard to get better. If I can be half as strong as she was, I'll be happy. My mom is so much a part of me, I can hear her in my head saying, do the right thing when I'm trying to take the easy way out. Or nobody's looking at you when you're stressing about not having the right thing to wear. And I can hear her in my voice when I say, God bless it, after goofing up. And when I tell my grandkids to lay kepi. Sorry. And call them sweet boy and sweet girl. I'm so glad she was such a positive influence on my relationships with my kids and grandkids, and she always will. And I love and miss you, Mom. I forgot my clothes. You forgot what? Oh, where are my clothes? Oh, they're in my pocket. Never mind.
I have never heard such praise, and I've never known a person who deserved it more than Marcia Grusin from any family. So I just want to share a few sentences, although I know that we can all speak for hours and days and years. We all know the song, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in laughter and strife. And how can we ever measure 90 years in Marcia's life? So who was she? 1, constancy. You heard consistency. You heard that. She was consistent in her love for everyone, in her manner with people, her acceptance of people young and old, of everything that happened in life. Everything. She was consistent in acceptance. The most reliable person I ever knew. 2, humor. You heard that from every single talk. She always had something to say with joy and appreciation. And when she was younger, she even liked to jitterbug, and she taught that to her children. 3, the most significant thing is she was so completely value-laden. Anything she saw, she thought about what she could do to make this world better. That included loyalty, honesty, volunteering, kindness, tutoring, English, even returned her extra change if she got 5 cents extra. An openness to new people of all kinds, acceptance of everyone she knew, devoted to her family, her grandchildren, all of her kids, and all of their chosen loved ones. She loved learning. She studied and read. She always had a book with her. And if you were meeting with her, she would always say, it's okay if you're late because I'll be sitting in my car and I'll read a book till you come. Generosity with her money, her time, and her voice at all times. And she taught that to her children too. And she taught them the word, you heard it from one of the speeches, your word is gold. So you just better, if you say something, you have to follow through. So we have consistency, humor, value-laden, and love. Oh boy. She loved everybody. She loved her sisters. She loved Abby. She loved her kids, her grandkids. She loved her friends. Her face lit up when she saw so much love. She even loved adult coloring books. She praised her children. Everyone thought she was the luckiest person to have kids who called and visited always, and she quelled from them. She loved hearing, and if they didn't say how lucky she was, she would say, you know how lucky I am? My kids call me all the time. Julie called each day, and I may say this wrong because I don't know Spanish. She would say, hola, mamacita, and Marcia would say, holita, papacita. As close as I can go. Lori was an electronic genius to her. Mindy always did a yeoman's job. So much love. And they had all these secret little jokes between them. And then I can speak best about Am Shalom for 25 years. She loved telling stories to the religious school children. She particularly had a story about a woman who knitted her children and took them everywhere. And then they didn't have a house to live in, so she knitted a house. But it's a story you'll have to buy and read yourself, the whole story. She was creative, inventive, and thank God for all the things that she was for me personally and me professionally. She had a great memory, kept track of everything, because I never did. And ask me sometime, not here, about the follow-up system that she developed for me, because that was an amazing thing that we learned as we went. We loved working together, doing things together, and laughing together. She was brilliant, a great mathematician, and best of all, she was humble. She was a secret keeper. She was never jealous of anyone. She was always proud of other people's accomplishments. She was so spiritual, and sometimes I would find her sitting quietly in the synagogue, and once in a while I would ask her what was up. And she said, nothing special, I'm just talking to God. She ate lunch with the congregation staff every day, and every Monday they would all say, okay, Marcia, what did you and your friends see this weekend? And tell us all about it. She had so many friends, and she was loyal to them all, and she always found ways to stay connected to them. That's an amazing thing about her. She stayed connected to the hundreds of people that she was friends with. I couldn't have taken a sabbatical year in Israel for sure, if not for Marcia. She kept my checkbook. She checked on my kids. She managed everything. And she said, it was nothing. I would never have had any of the success that I did if not for her. And she would say, no, it's just my job. When Marcia died, I sent a note to the Women's Spirituality of Am Shalom that has been meeting since 1990. People sent me notes about Marcia. She had been the secretary of the group for 20 years, and she was the most significant person there. Here are just a couple notes from the notes that I received. Doris wrote she was intellectually curious, organized, and welcoming. It seemed to me she was the jack of all trades that provided the underpinnings for so much of what Am Shalom was about. Arona wrote, I'm devastated to hear of Marcia's death. She was beautiful and smart and the most beautiful, wonderful human being. We studied together under the wonderful leadership of Lynn Bright and were confirmed together at Am Shalom's first confirmation class in 1994. I learned a lot about her in that class. Also, Sharon, Jean, Marcia, and I had a birthday club, and we four had dinner together to celebrate our birthdays when they came around. We did it for years. I still miss it, and I miss the camaraderie that it brought for me. Her memory will definitely be a blessing. Barbara wrote, when I was teaching at Am Shalom, she was instrumental in getting me to join the women's group. She was a very special person. Marcia was instrumental in getting all kinds of people involved in the congregation in all kinds of different ways. Anytime she saw someone who needed anything, she found something for them to do. Marilyn wrote, Marcia was in charge of administrivia at our women's spirituality group. She never missed a meeting, and the meeting couldn't start without her notes. It's a term we still sometimes use, and I think in how awesome and filled with warmth Marcia was, whether in her office at Am Shalom. May her memory be a blessing. So Marcia was this, Lynn Bright wrote, she was a delightful storyteller. And from now on, whenever you see a giraffe anywhere, please remember Marcia's positive personality, and remember she was in our lives for so long. My addition to that is I was told that Marcia loved giraffes because they were tall and slim and graceful. Others wrote, Marcia had a great personality and was always the welcoming face at Am Shalom. A wonderful human being who leaves a blessed memory behind. She was a character and was fun and a joy to be around. And one day, someone else wrote how Marcia got her involved in the women's spirituality group 15 years ago, and the woman is still here today. And so many stories, so many beautiful stories, but maybe they're stories for another day. And as we get ready to close this service, we read the prayer, El Male Rachamim. It's a story, O God, full of mercy. And I think it's in your little booklets, so if you want to read along with me, you can. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and the pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament onto the soul of Marcia Jeanne Grusin, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the covers of thy wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may her repose be peace. And we say, Amen. And now, as they lower the casket, I want to read another reading that I think is hopefully important to all of us. It's called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning, dash, to the end. He noted the first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between the years. For that dash represents the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the whole house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. So be less quick to anger and show appreciation more. And love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say and how you live your dash? To live your dash means to live every single day to the fullest. Live in this moment. It's important to live every day like it was the last. And if I may also offer a suggestion, while you're all still alive and well, I suggest that you write the things that you wrote today, not those things, about Marcia, to the people that you love. Write them a letter. It could be a friend, it could be a sister, it could be a child, it could be a parent, because I'm sorry that Marcia didn't have a party where she heard every single one of these talks. And so take a few minutes once a week, once a month, and write a note to those people that you love and you care about, so they can hear them while they are here and they are with us. And one more reading. This is, as I say, I never read a Woman of Valor, but I found a modern version of it, so it's a little bit different, and again, it applies to her. A woman of valor, her worth is priceless. She would say, every day I sent my children to school. I paid the mortgage. I ensured that my car was legal and fit to drive. I folded and put away the laundry. I texted my dear, dear friends who are far away. I worked, I served, I wrote, I created, I played, I laughed, I taught, I accompanied, and I planned. I made holiness from what I had. Even on days when depression whispered in my ear, I remembered the spark of gratitude and reminded my children that they matter. And at the end of the week, I sing this little song. I promise that I'm enough, but not too much, and I am beautiful in God's eyes. If that wasn't written just for Marcia, I've never read anything that was. And what we are about to do now, we're going to say Kaddish, and then after Kaddish, we're going to go to the grave, and we're going to put, there is earth, right? There is earth up there, right? Oh, from there. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of earth. There is another Mainsa, a story. Nobody knows if it's true. I don't know who made it up. That you're supposed to put 3 shovels full. You don't have to put 3 shovels full if you don't want to. The story goes that if you put 1, it could be an accident. If you could put 2, maybe it's still an accident. But if you put 3, then you are really doing it for sure. And the other part of that that's important is that the reason that you do that is because it's the last act of kindness that you can ever bestow on your mother, your sister, your friend, and she can never return that favor, and that's why we help to do that. And we stand together, and I would like for each of you, if you can stand, I'd like all of you to please first, if you can read it in Hebrew, you get out your little books, and I'd like each of you to read the first 4 words after me. We say together, Yit Gadal, everyone, Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah. That means God is great, God is holy, His name is wonderful. And then if you can go on reading with me, that would be great. Ba'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon, uvyomechon, uvchayei dekol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata ta'amiran b'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. May His great name grow and be exalted and sanctified, and we say amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it'll just be another moment. You can come forward to place earth into the grave. We'll also pass out the roses, and you can place a rose in her grave as well. We're going to walk around to give you gloves, so please put those on if you're going to place earth in. Memorial contributions, the Lieberman Center for Health and Rehabilitation, or St. Jude Children's Research Hospital would be appreciated in her memory. And for those of you who are online, you can access that information on the funeral home's website, and for those of you who are here, we have that on the service folder. This concludes the service. We're going to leave the Zoom, the online portion on, so you can witness the burial. No other words will be spoken at this time. up for you, man. Folks, you can use the other side of the mound as well. Come to the other side. Everybody stay safe and healthy. If you'd like us to pull some roses, okay? Whoever suggested that for Thanksgiving, that's a great idea.
I would like to.
And then Lisa, this is the Shiva box for you.
Yeah, I've got the Shiva box.
Folks, just want to stand to the left here. The camera's on. Thank you.